Hey, everybody. Welcome to another brand new episode of the
Geek Buddies.
Hey! We're all excited to be back here on the precipice of WandaVision coming out this weekend. We're going to be talking about that later on in the show as our main topic, the road to WandaVision. And we'll also be announcing what we're going to be doing in terms of reviewing that show as well here for the Geek Buddies. But first, let's introduce ourselves. I am the outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the channel. Michael?
I am Michael Vogel. That's me. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies. And Johnny's right hand, left hand? What is this? I can't never do it backwards. Right, middleman. I'm the middleman. Geek Buddies middleman.
He knows how to get things done. Yeah.
And this is Shannon. Shannon McClung. That's me. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Silicon Valley, Modern Family, and way back when, House.
Oh, nice. Good reference.
Nice.
He's an unusual doctor, that House. He doesn't follow all the norms, that House. And there are rumors that Black Adder might be getting brought back by Rowan Atkinson. Will Hugh Laurie show up in that Black Adder? I wonder, as he showed up in the last 2 seasons of Blackadder. Pretty funny stuff.
Will our very own Shannon McClung show up in Blackadder? Who knows?
It could be a British accent. I'd like to see. Anyway, thank you all so much for downloading this content or watching it on YouTube. If you download it on a podcast feed, thank you very much. For those of you who are new, thanks for taking a chance on the Geek Buddies. For those of you who have been our fans for quite some time, thank you for staying on the train. And for the new people, this is how it works. Each one of us presents a geek news item. We talk about it amongst ourselves, and then we take a little bit of a mini break and then get into our big main topic, which, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the road to WandaVision. So let's kick it off. Who's first?
That would be me.
Awesome. That's good.
All right. So in the world of Star Wars, we have had a bunch of really exciting announcements over the past month or so. One of the things that had been rumored long before Disney's Investor Day, long before Kathleen Kennedy made all of the announcements, was that there was going to be a Rebels animated series spinoff. Now, rumors have been circulating for a while that the animated spinoff has kind of gone the way of the dodo, isn't happening, but that's only because with the success of Mandalorian, with the excitement around Ahsoka Tano getting her own series, what they were going to do in this animated Rebels spin-off continuation is now going to move into the live action realm. And new rumors coming out, broke by Kessel Run Transmissions, kind of seem to confirm that. Their sources are saying that they saw Captain Rex's armor on the Mandalorian set, presumably because Tamora Morrison, who plays Boba Fett, obviously, and who will be playing Boba Fett in Book of Boba, would technically also be the right actor to play a live-action version of Captain Rex, one of the most popular clones from Clone Wars Animated. So the fact that there was this armor on set, that Tamora Morrison was possibly doing a screen test, they've also kind of revealed that, according to their sources, people over at Lucasfilm are, quote, super interested in Rex's potential. So this is really exciting. It all makes total sense. I think even back when we heard that Tamora Morrison was going to be in season 2 of Mandalorian, we had a big discussion on whether he would be Boba Fett or Captain Rex. So this is all exciting. I know that there's a lot of animation people and fans out there that, as the rumors have been swirling that the animated continuation of Rebels isn't happening, we're kind of bummed. But personally, I'm kind of stoked about it. They're definitely not shying away from animation. A lot of the announcements from Investor Day for Star Wars, including the droids thing, the anime thing, like, there's a lot of Star Wars animation coming our way, but the fact that some of these beloved animated characters are going to continue to make the jump the way that Ahsoka and Bo-Katan did, that we're possibly going to see a live-action Captain Rex, a live-action Sabine, and take that the ending of Star Wars Rebels, where everybody was speculating about what was going to happen, what the next steps were, and seeing that kind of happen in live action is pretty cool. So again, all rumors, none of it substantiated yet, but what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I mean, because there's no real limit to where you can plug Rex in at this point. You're going to have potentially 4 separate live action series where he could pop up. He could pop up in The Mandalorian. He could pop up in Ahsoka. He could pop up in Book of Boba Fett. He could pop up in Rangers of the New Republic. And I don't remember when we initially chatted about this, if that was something that had been floated, was that Tamora Morrison was coming back to play Boba Fett and possibly Rex. And you wonder if that sort of originated because of that screen test. Allegedly, Ewan McGregor was on the set for Mandalorian because they wanted to do an Obi-Wan screen test because they're going to use that same technology that they use for Mandalorian to shoot these shows going down the road. The volume, exactly. Which, I don't know, man. I think that's awesome. And just the fact that Tamora Morrison, where he is in his age, is he a little old for Boba Fett? Sure, but he also was digested by a Sarlacc. He's probably a little young for Rex, but you put a beard on him, you age him up a little bit, he's going to look awesome. And in terms of his tenderness, like we've seen Boba and Jango, but as much as I was not like a huge fan of the Aquaman movie, he was great as Aquaman's dad. I mean, some of his and Nicole Kidman scenes were, I mean, again, I didn't love the movie, but I certainly, my heartstrings got tugged when I saw them reunited. So yes, I think him coming back to play Rex, awesome.
Do we know exactly where he'd be coming back to play Rex, Michael? Would it be Ahsoka? Would it be in a number of places? I mean, they haven't solidified that. So
they've not. Yeah, this is all rumors and solidified. Now, what we do know from the ending of Star Wars Rebels is that Rex did fight in the Battle of Endor.
Right.
So Mandalorian takes place. Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, Book of Boba, all take place roughly in that 5 years post Return of the Jedi. So he's fought in the Battle of Endor. It's 5 years later. Presumably he's still around. Yeah. I would guess, and again, this is just a complete guess on my part, that he would end up in the Ahsoka series. That if whatever the plans were post Rebels that would involve Ahsoka, Sabine, and presumably Rex going off to find out what happened to Ezra. This is where Grand Admiral Thrawn comes into things. I would imagine the way that you're looking at everything, that Mandalorian Season 3 is going to focus on the Mandalorians, Bo-Katan, Din Djarin. Book of Boba is going to deal with the underworld, with him and Fennec Shand and whatever's going on with them taking over Jabba's palace. Right. Rangers of the New Republic is going to deal with the new Rangers of the Republic, probably Cara Dune being involved in that, and like what it's like for the New Republic to try and tame the Outer Rim. And the Ahsoka series is most likely the one that's going to deal with Ahsoka, Jedi stuff, her search. But because her and Rex and their relationship is so close, particularly with the ending of Season 7 of Clone Wars, it seems like from an emotional standpoint, we really want to see Rex and Ahsoka kicking ass together. Which is great for Tamora Morrison because he could be doing double duty here. He could be Boba Fetting his life over here, just having a blast being Boba with Ming-Na as Fennec Shand, and then also hanging with Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. So Tamora Morrison's winning.
Yeah, that's for sure. And the possibilities are endless, as you say. He can pop up wherever they want to fit him in. And just because he's coming back doesn't mean he's coming back to be a series regular. He could be coming back for a couple episodes. Certainly doing the Boba Fett's going to require a lot of his time. And ladies and gentlemen, Tamora, as Shannon pointed out, it's not a young man. And when you start to come back and you do multiple shows, that can affect you physically as a human being. And look, I know he's is he Australian or from New Zealand?
He's a Kiwi, yeah.
He's a Kiwi. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I know their blood runs strong, so I had no problem with that. But you just never know when you're putting all of a sudden where you're just kind of booking things when you can. All of a sudden, woo, you're doing a bunch of stuff. So maybe he's only like a one episode in Ahsoka, one episode in Rangers of the New Republic. Could even be one episode in Boba where he's playing opposite himself. That's possible if all of this stuff is post Return of the Jedi, and he is older, so he could play it up a little bit to be a little bit older. So all around, I like this idea because I love Tamora Morrison. It's so crazy to think about the fact that so many people have enjoyed him in numerous projects through the years, and it's finally this late in life, he's getting a shot to really be a part of a massive franchise and be beloved. I mean, this guy was in Barbed Wire, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a tough road to get to that position. But just like Liam Neeson, later in life kind of finds this new success as an older actor. So me personally, I love it. I think it's great. And it shows that Star Wars is not afraid. Mandalorian season 2 showed that Star Wars is not afraid to bring these characters out of the animated world into the live action world. And they did it well. And now this opens the door for more characters to come in. Thrawn's been the big rumor, all that. And so to me, this is exciting. This is another step forward for the advancement of Star Wars beyond what we've seen before. So I love it.
Yeah. I mean, how awesome would it be that Rex would be the thread that connects all of these shows together? Because he's the one that kind of touches each one. Yeah. I mean, he has connections to the Mandalorian over the fact that he is a clone. Yeah. He has connections to Ahsoka because of their relationship. He could have connections to Rangers of the New Republic after helping out at the Battle of Endor. I mean,
he's a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a damn good one that somehow survives all these battles, somehow finds his way through these battles. And it reminds me, and this is for some of you who may get this reference, it reminds me of Takashi Shimura's character in Seven Samurai. You know, there's a line at the end of the movie when they've survived the battle. Spoiler for a film that's 80 years old. But like they survived the battle, and Takashi Shimura looks over at his friend who has survived the battle with him and says, well, we survived again somehow, you know, and this idea of, for whatever reason, some people are blessed or gifted to be able to keep surviving battles, have been to multiple wars, and what that does and how that changes you and how that gives you perspective. So an old soldier being a part of this, offering his point of view, I think is great.
I just want to say, I mean, like as a writer, what I think is so great about this is who could have imagined when we all went to go see Attack of the Clones in the movie theater, and they introduced this army of the Republic, this army of clones, that so many years later we would be just thrilled to discuss this one clone and his journey from being a soldier fighting alongside Anakin Skywalker to potentially coming into Star Wars as this live action character that has such an amazing history, that is so beloved, that will, you know, like we saw him at his prime in Clone Wars, we saw him as an older clone in Rebels. Like it just shows how great character and great story really can come from anywhere, particularly places that you can't see it or that you don't even think is that great as some people feel about the prequels. So I think it's an awesome journey to see a character go on.
Could we see him in Kenobi? That works, right? The timeline works, doesn't it? He'd be a younger Rex, but they de-aged him in Aquaman, and it looked really. I watched it the other day for about half an hour, that opening, and he is absolutely de-aged in a way that's believable.
So honestly, and just kind of canon-wise, continuity-wise, Rex and Kenobi have a relationship, and there would be because we don't know what Rex's journey is post Rebels, there's no reason at all that he and Obi-Wan Kenobi couldn't have some kind of interaction. So that's I didn't even think about that, but you're 100% right. That would be super cool.
Well, Shannon making the point that he can pop up in multiple places. Yeah. It just occurred to me Kenobi's a possibility as well. So, all right, we'll keep our tabs on it, keep our eyes on it. It's all exciting Star Wars news for sure. So we'll keep talking about it as it goes along. We get more and more updates on what's going on with that. All right, what's our next story?
Yeah, so it was announced last week on Deadline that Michael Waldron is going to be staying in business with Walt Disney Studios. Kevin Feige is bringing him on to write his Star Wars movie. Now, for those of you who don't know who Michael Waldron is, he's the writer behind Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. He was one of the head writers and the creator of Loki, and he is a guy that was one of the producers on Rick and Morty and one of the writers. So this is a really interesting choice. Like, one, it's clear that Disney has a lot of faith in this guy, that he's doing Doctor Strange. He did Loki. He's going to come back for Loki season 2 in some capacity. I don't think they've stated exactly what. And now he's going to be on Star Wars. Now, the really interesting thing about this guy, coming from Rick and Morty, he started off as, like, I think a writer's assistant on Community, which Community, Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon, same creator. Those people are really, really funny. So what does this mean going forward for the Star Wars movie? I mean, one, you've got Loki, which tends to be like, yes, he's sort of a darker character, but he's also a very funny character. So the idea that Star Wars might be injecting a little more humor, like we had talked earlier about the Lord and Miller situation, how they kind of balked at like, this isn't feeling like Star Wars. We want something that feels like the Star Wars that we know. And ultimately, no matter what you thought of the movie, that kind of blew up in their face a little bit. So it'll be really interesting to see what this guy is going to bring to Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie that we still have no idea what it's about. But gentlemen, what do you think?
Mike?
Well, first of all, I think it's just great to hear about Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie. Like it kind of like when that was announced, however long ago that was, that Kevin Feige was also coming over to do a Star Wars movie. I mean, it just blew up. Everyone's like, oh, he's taking Kathleen Kennedy's job. He's going to be in charge of both. There was just so much speculation. And then along with the Benioff and Weiss Star Wars trilogy and the Rian Johnson, it all just sort of fizzled for a while. I think as Disney and Lucasfilm sort of took stock of everything, and then, they didn't really mention anything about Feige's movie at all at the Disney investor thing. And we know that Taika is also doing a Star Wars movie. And both of those things that's what we know the least about with all of these other big announcements. So the fact that there's a writer attached, the fact that this is still moving forward is actually really, really cool, because I'm super curious to see what he's doing. I also think, Shannon, you make a really good point. I mean, look, obviously, I don't think, I might be wrong, I don't think Multiverse of Madness is going to be a laugh riot. It sounds like it's they've said they want to get a little bit darker. It's going to be more into the horror elements with Sam Raimi coming in. Like, there's definitely a vibe, but Sam Raimi's quirky as well. So I think there's definitely a quirkiness to that. Just looking at the trailer for the Loki series, there's definitely a quirkiness to that. So I do think between that and between Taika having a very, very specific kind of tone and humor to him as well, I do think you're right. I think that it's not, we were just talking about the Rex stuff, and it just seems like in general, Disney, Lucasfilm has a bit more confidence, a bit more swagger to what they're doing with Star Wars than they did when Solo was coming out, when they were in the midst of the new trilogy and were still sort of trying things on, getting nervous, switching out directors. It feels like there's more of a confidence that they have the right creative people and it's in the right creative hands, which will allow them to take more risks.
Yeah, I think overall, I love that idea too. I mean, look, I am a big fan of it. I've said this from the beginning when I first started out doing being a guest on Christian Harloff and Tiffany Smith's Star Wars show. Far, far away. I said, to me, Star Wars doesn't work unless it expands how it approaches the franchise for all of us now, because our minds have changed so much over the last 20, 30, 40 years to be more open to different genres of television, film, and what have you, and have more of that explored and the boundaries pushed over and over again. Well, now we're in 2020. So if you're gonna come, you got to come with something new and interesting and a good and a unique approach, and that's gonna get you people who are gonna take chances on your shows, and they've been doing that now. The Mandalorian was such an unusual approach, even though it harkened back to the original trilogy stuff. It still kind of found a way to bring new characters in, bring characters out of the animated world into here. The Lord Miller stuff, there were rumors that the Solo was going to be kind of smart, snarky, and funny, and all that. And then, of course, it ended up being what it ended up being. I actually watched it again this morning, and you see what could have been here, and you're curious, like, well, what if Lord Miller had just been allowed to do the thing? Well, now Rick and Morty writer and producer coming in with Dan, who is very, very influenced by Dan Harmon, which is the Community guy. Of course, you can make that connection there as well with the Russo brothers. So there's all kinds of stuff here roaming around, and I'm curious to see what their point of view is going to be on the Kevin Feige movie. The Taika Waititi movie makes more sense to me with this connection, but with Kevin Feige now, this shows me that this is something that Star Wars is no longer afraid to kind of go out there and see what they can do. And I wonder, and this occurred to me as I was reading the story, I wonder if this means if Kathleen Kennedy ever steps down and a new person or new people get into those positions, do we see the return of Lord Miller down the road if this works out to be a good combination with this Rick and Morty writer and this point.
I doubt. I mean, I think. Well, here's what I'll say about the Lord and Miller thing, because I get it. I get why people. I love Lord. I mean, like, look, they've given us some A+ quality stuff. Like I would never bet against Lord Miller. I think they're great.
Yep.
I think probably their solo would have been great, but I do just want to point out, because I know that this is something that bugs the two of you so much. There is something to be said for knowing how to bring humor appropriately to a universe. Like, for example, Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. I like it. You guys, like Poe Dameron's whole sort of run at the beginning with the "I'm trying to get through to Hux. Is this your mom?" Like the whatever. But like there's jokes that work in a modern sense that don't work in genre. And I think what Kevin Feige and the Marvel team do so well is they manage to have epic, world-spanning action with Asgardian gods and aliens and sorcerers supreme, and they get a joke in there and it doesn't feel like it's taking you out of it. Like the humor and the action and the mythology all blend really well, and that's what you need for Star Wars. And I'm not saying Lord and Miller can't do that, because looking at some of the stuff they've done, they could, but I do think that we'll never know for sure. I'm very curious what their solo would have been. But it may or may not have been the right call. Like, who knows? But I do think that, like I said, it just seems like they've got the right people with the right mindset. And it's kind of fun to watch them, like I said, have this Star Wars swagger right now.
Well, I mean, you remember when Disney first purchased Lucasfilm, they announced their plan. They were going to do a new trilogy. They were going to do these anthology movies, these sort of spin-offs. And the original intention of those spin-offs was to be outside of what Star Wars normally was. Rogue One was supposed to be this war movie, which I think we actually got. We'll never know what the original, like the first version of Rogue One was going to be before. I think it was Tony Gilroy or Dan Gilroy?
Yeah, Tony Gilroy.
Before Tony Gilroy came in and did a big rewrite and allegedly took over the reshoots. Han Solo was supposed to be a little more fun and definitely lends itself to be a little more comedic, but they kind of balked at the 11th hour, and we got the movie that we got. So something fun with Michael Waldron is, and this doesn't have anything to do with Star Wars, but it's more like with Doctor Strange and Loki. I was just like, oh, that's right. And Rick and Morty, they talk about the infinite number of universes out there, and being able to take that skill that you got on, which Rick and Morty is a brilliantly written show, but you're able to take this skill that you sort of honed at Rick and Morty and were able to apply it to the MCU. I'm like, that's awesome. Good for him.
Well, and here's a question for you. If we're talking about that, does Kevin Feige's movie possibly explore that? Remember was it the world within worlds? Is that a possibility now? Does that come into play? The idea that we saw in Star Wars Rebels, where you can jump into different timelines, like, is that something that maybe that's why he's brought on to be a writer for this? And obviously, the Loki stuff is going to be jumping in and out of worlds as well. So maybe because he's so good at this, that they might be exploring that in the Kevin Feige film, which would really rock Star Wars, and it would be bringing something from the animated world into live action. And now people, it'll absolutely split. People will be like, yes, this is awesome. And other people are like, oh, this is a cop out. So I don't know, but it's a possibility.
Well, I mean, if they were to go that way, that's a very insulated story too. Like, it doesn't necessarily affect everything else.
True.
Or it does. I mean, like I'd say, I think it's going to be really interesting with all the announcements that they've made, and including the High Republic stuff, which I'm about 150 pages or so into, and I'm like thoroughly enjoying. It's an era of Star Wars that I didn't think I cared about, and then I started reading the book, and I'm like, this is awesome. But like, wherever they're going, between Patty Jenkins' movie, Taika's movie, this Kevin Feige story, like, is this where Star Wars is going next? And if it is, what the fuck is it? Who knows? I don't know. I'm excited. I'm into it.
All right, we'll see. I mean, we'll see, but it's I think we're all on board with it for sure to see what they can come up with, and I hope they don't get it pulled at the last minute as like Lord Miller did. Let this happen. Let us enjoy funny, new, interesting ways to explore Star Wars that makes sense. All right, and our last story comes to us from a number of places. Dark Horizons and other places are reporting the fact that Coming to America 2, which is coming out on March 5th on Amazon Prime, it is going to be rated PG-13. That's right, PG-13. Now, a lot of people are like, PG-13, what? But the R rating back in 1988 is different than an R rating now. And I think it'll be a few less F-bombs and there'll be less nudity with the women at the beginning of the movie, because there's not nudity throughout the rest of the movie, just in the beginning of the movie. But this is also 20, 30 years later, right? We're going back 30 years later to this world. Everyone's older. Everyone's more relaxed. Everyone's more, this is about him reuniting with his son. So yes, maybe we won't get the really hardcore R-rated stuff that we got in 1988 or 89, whenever Coming to America came out. But that was like Eddie at the peak of Eddie with all the stuff. This is a softer Eddie Murphy now. This is a dad. This is a different kind of humor. Doesn't mean that you're going to get, you're still not going to get edgy humor. Certainly the trailer had the African jokes and what have you, but there's a little more sensitivity now in 2021 than you had in the past. So for me personally, I don't have a problem with this. I just want to see Eddie again being on screen, and I loved the trailer. So, okay, PG-13, a few less fucks are not going to make me hate the movie or not think it was, you should have gone harder. This is always been a touching story about a man in the first film trying to find the real love of his life. This is going to be a story about a man trying to reconnect with a child of his he didn't know. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Anyway.
Cautious optimism. I'm sticking by my initial statement. The PG-13 rating. Do you need mother effers all over the place for a comedy? No, but it has kind of been established within that world. I don't think it's a few less. I think with a PG-13, you get like one or two.
Okay.
So, and they definitely said, mother F and the F-bomb more than 5 times.
Yes.
Listening to some people drop the F-bomb is funny. And I do think there is a possibility that this could be the Coming to America sequel with less teeth. That's okay. My fear. And again, you talk about the returning characters. It's not like Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, or rather their characters, the prince and his minder. They weren't necessarily the ones dropping the F-bombs. It was the people around them. Mm-hmm. So, if we don't get those barbershop guys saying it, I'll be disappointed.
Did they cuss? I don't remember the barbershop guys.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I just like that I got Johnny on this side saying fuck this, fuck that, and you on this side refuse it. You're like, well, the mother effers. There's a lot of mother effers in a rated R movie, which you cannot. You can. Johnny already did it. You can say fuck.
You can, but you don't have to put.
Interesting. I went through an entire so I saw the headline about it being PG-13, and I was like, this sucks. Mm-hmm. And Johnny, you make a good point. You're right. Like, Coming to America, it's not. There's certain movies that when you go see a rated R movie, it is because of how raunchy it gets or how inappropriate it gets. Coming to America is actually a really sweet romantic story, and it just has a lot of really funny stuff in it. I then went through a whole process of realizing that, look, Eddie Murphy is hilarious to me in Mulan. Eddie Murphy is hilarious as Donkey in Shrek. Like, Eddie Murphy's hilarious, whether or not he's cursing or not. Like, he is really funny. I do agree that this movie could be every bit as funny, every bit as hitting all the parts you want with a PG-13 rating. It is absolutely possible. And I think that it is just my... the way that I look at that movie, Trading Places, Eddie Murphy Raw, like the Eddie Murphy of the 80s that I grew up with is an R-rated Eddie Murphy. And so I think, to me, Coming to America falls into that category. So I had an assumption about what this movie was going to be, that the PG-13 definitely dimmed that. It gave me this is going to be a different thing. But as I really started thinking about it, I was like, well, that's being a little bit ridiculous. Like, I don't need the motherfuckers necessarily to be funny. So we'll see. I will be curious to see how it goes. I'm still excited, but it made me a little bit more cautious. Let's just say that.
Fair enough. I want people to maybe leave us a comment down below. Take a look at that barber scene. I don't remember them cussing in the barber scene, and I think that's and those are just as funny. What we'll probably get is Samuel L. Jackson not cussing in the movie. Maybe he'll be the only cuss word in the movie is Samuel L's. I don't know. Certainly, like Leslie Jones, I think is funny with or without the swear words. Certainly in SNL, she's incredibly funny without any swear words. Tracy Morgan on 30 Rock for how many years? So all these people can still convey a rougher kind of comedy, a harder, more edgy kind of comedy than you normally see like an Adam Sandler movie without having to use the cuss word. So it's just a matter of what they can get away with there. And I don't think it'll take away from the movie at all. And it's clear that they want to appeal to families. So they want to get as many eyes on this as a family viewing at-home streaming experience as possible. So to me, I don't fault them for wanting to do this. This is not Eddie in his 20s. Eddie in his 20s being neutered is something else. This is Eddie way older as a father. So I think this one's going to have a little more sweetness to it even than the first one did. So.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I look, I'm still excited to see it. I would say that I did realize that I was having a adverse reaction because of the Eddie Murphy of my childhood, not necessarily the Eddie Murphy of now. So I think everything you said is 100% correct. It is entirely possible that this movie could be just as funny, if not funnier, than the original. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, cautious optimism.
Cautious optimism.
All right. Fair.
Got some motherfucking optimism.
All right. Well, there we go. That's all the items for the first part of the show. We're going to take a quick break and then jump into our main topic, the road to WandaVision, here on the Geek Buddies. We'll be right back.
Do 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 boo doo boo 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 doo ba da ba ba da ba da ba ba da da da
That's really good.
I actually didn't know where you were going to go. I was like, I actually get nervous for you now when we go to the break. I was like, oh shit, what's the music going to be? What's the music going to be? But that was a good call. Good call on your part. I appreciate the forethought.
Wait, one last thing I forgot to mention before we start this main topic. It is Marvel related. There were some rumors that have come out as we're recording this that Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, might be the main villain in Black Panther 2. Quickly, do you like this idea? Do you think it works? There was also rumors about Namor Submariner. Is this a situation where Namor is going to come in as initially the villain, then becomes the anti-hero, teams up with whoever is there in Wakanda and fights off Dr. Doom? Do you think that's possible? Thoughts, real quick.
Yes. All of that. I think all of those are potentially very, very cool ideas. And the fact that Dr. Doom, Namor, and I believe Black Panther all sprang out of the Fantastic Four comic book.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
Okay.
I like it mainly because, look, with Chadwick Boseman's passing, the story of Black Panther 2 went completely up in the air. But with Kevin Feige coming out and saying that they were not going to recast T'Challa, it seems like the way they're going to go is, look, Black Panther ended with T'Challa basically opening it up and saying, hey, Wakanda has all these technological marvels. We're not what you thought we were. And if they're going to continue with a story where we don't have a king in Wakanda anymore, it makes sense that a bunch of people who are would-be kings or think that they should be kings would come in to try and take over and get this stuff. So the potential to have a Victor Von Doom and a Namor coming in and saying, this is mine now, completely makes sense. So, I just hope that if they do go down that road, and I'm sure Ryan Coogler's writing it, so what I'm going to say I'm worried about, I'm not actually worried about. Those characters are so big and fans are so excited, I would not want them to overshadow all of the amazing, interesting Wakandan characters that we've already met, new Wakandan characters that we could meet, characters pulled from the Black Panther comic, new characters. I'm not concerned about that. Obviously, that's where Ryan Coogler's head is at, so I'm sure he's going to do that. So that would be my only concern, but that's it. And I think it's really cool other than that.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I think I agree with everything you guys said. I would, if they make it work, I'm down for it. My only hesitation is we just saw Patty try to do that with two different villains in Wonder Woman 1984. As long as they don't do that, I think we have a way to make it work. And certainly we've seen films where they can do two villains and make it work, even when they try to be an anti-hero.
I just said this to somebody recently, and I know we're going to talk about some of these in our road to WandaVision, but around the Joel Schumacher Batman movies era it became like a rule of superhero movies that you shouldn't have two villains in one movie because it just seemed to get too busy and mess everything up. And so then there was like several years where everybody's like, yeah, you shouldn't have, look what happened. You shouldn't do these two villains. You should focus on one. Then Batman Begins came out and said, hey, fuck it, we have like 3 villains. And then Civil War came along and Infinity War came along and you're like, hey, we have 39 characters in our movie and we're somehow making it work. So if anybody can make 2 heavy hitters like Doom and Namor work in one movie, I have super faith in the MCU right now that they could pull that off.
I agree with you 1,000%. All right, well, let's get into our road to WandaVision here. You know, WandaVision is dropping this Friday as we're recording it, dropping this Friday on Disney+. It is the official start of Phase 4 of the MCU. There is so much to consider. It's going to be connecting up with the Multiverse of Madness, connecting up with Spider-Man 3. There's all kinds of connections that are going to be laid out here. Elizabeth Olsen and numerous people involved in the show have not given too much away for this, but certainly there have been leaks explaining how these things are going to possibly connect. But Michael, please take it away. The road to WandaVision.
All right. Well, first thing to know, I know a lot of people were concerned earlier in the week because they thought the runtime of WandaVision was going to be very, very short. I know that like the first 3 episodes that have been released are about 30 minutes with credits, but that is because it is very much based on a sitcom format.
30
and
minutes
Kevin Feige. 30 minutes each. 30 minutes each, because it's very much based on a sitcom format. But as the story expands, Kevin Feige revealed that the runtime will also alter. So much like Mandalorian, where each week we didn't know whether we were going to get a 30-minute episode, a 50-minute episode, seems like it's going to fall. I had a friend like text me frantically. He was like, "They're so short. I'm upset." And I'm like, it's fine. But we thought what we would do is kind of go through the MCU a little bit. Stuff that most of you guys know, but kind of fun to review, kind of go through like what is Wanda and Vision's story through the MCU, and then touch on some of the comic stuff as well. So if you are so interested to do a couple things that you can watch leading up to this, you can dive in starting with Avengers Age of Ultron, where we actually meet both Wanda and Vision, and some important things to discuss here. We meet Wanda and her brother Pietro in a Sokovian Hydra facility at the beginning of the movie, where they've both been experimented on by Loki's scepter, which he got in the first Avengers movie, which contains the Mind Stone, one of the Infinity Stones. And then the Avengers stop Baron von Strucker and the Hydra agents. They get the scepter, take it back to Avengers Mansion, start experimenting on it, where Tony and Bruce inadvertently create Ultron. Ultron teams up with Wanda and Pietro. They become the bad guys of the movie. Meanwhile, Ultron builds himself a brand new body to download himself into using the Mind Stone, which becomes Vision. And then by the end of the movie, Vision and Wanda both switch teams. Wanda, in the first of several tragedies for her in the MCU, loses her brother Pietro, becomes an Avenger, and Vision ultimately kills Ultron. So those are the key things. I will say, Age of Ultron, I think I'm not the only one. One of my lesser watched Marvel movies as I go and rewatch things. And in revisiting it, because WandaVision was coming up and because it is definitely an overstuffed movie. You can tell that you can see why it almost killed Joss Whedon, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of good stuff, and a lot of it, especially knowing where these characters go, seeing the origins of both Wanda and Vision is interesting. Wanda has a lovely accent that disappears very quickly by the time we get to Civil War. But anything that you guys, any favorite moments from this Age of Ultron for you guys? Any big things that stand out for both Wanda's story or Vision's story for you guys?
Well, I think I'll actually go back to, is it Winter Soldier? Where we see them Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch pop up in one of the stingers.
Yeah.
Very, that is true. We do see Wanda in the post-credit sequence of Winter Soldier. Good call.
Yeah.
I mean, you see Strucker talking about the now's the age of miracles, and how these twins have endured these tests, these scientific tests that they've been, or experiments that they've been put through the scepter, and you see Quicksilver not really able to control his speed, just sort of bouncing off this padded cell, and Elizabeth Olsen looking very kind of culted out with this expression floating these cubes, and it was along with Winter Soldier just being a fantastic movie, you got so excited for what was coming after it. It's like, oh boy, the table, the things have shifted. If these people are now the adversaries. And I agree with you about Age of Ultron. I mean, yes, it's to sit down and watch Age of Ultron in one sitting, it is a lot.
Yep. But
it's a lot of fun to watch it in pieces. That's what I've done the last, 2 times that I decided to put on Age of Ultron is I'll watch it for about half an hour. And there is a lot of great stuff. I mean, yes, Elizabeth Olsen's accent, maybe not the strongest. And I don't think she full on Halle Berry's it in X-Men where it just vanishes. I think she tries to hold on to a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But she does a great job. I mean, that scene with her and Ultron after Quicksilver has died, where she rips his sort of mechanical heart out. I mean, you see the power that resides in this character, and you hope that her new teammates are going to be able to get to her better angels to be like, this is someone who can really mess up our world, so we have to teach her how to do things right. And going into Civil War, seeing how she's sort of what kickstarts the movie, I think they've done a really, really great job with Scarlet Witch thus far.
Yeah,
Johnny,
I agree.
what about you?
Yeah, I think Elizabeth Olsen has been great in the role. We first were introduced to her through independent films, and she is related to Mary-Kate and Ashley, and you're like, what are we going to get from Elizabeth? Is this going to be like a thing? And nothing against those two ladies, they built an empire, but they weren't really known for being incredible actresses. So you wonder what you were going to get. Elizabeth really stepped forward and showed this is a whole new kind of talent coming onto. And she's really been in control of herself as an actress throughout her career. So to see her step into Wanda, Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, this is a woman that is very powerful, deceptively more powerful than people think. And we saw flashes of that throughout the MCU movies since she's been introduced. I mean, when she fights Hawkeye, when they're trying to keep her there in the house there in Civil War, when she fights Thanos in Infinity War, like just so much about all of that. You saw what she could do with her powers, what she could do with the character as well. The connection with Vision, of course, we know from the comics, all of that coming into live action and seeing that coming, all of that has been very rich to explore. And they haven't had that much screen time, but they've been able, because they're both very good actors, to make you believe this relationship, the tenderness of this relationship, so that when Vision died in front of her eyes, you understood why she was devastated. And it makes sense when we go into WandaVision, why she's having such a hard time dealing with death. As you alluded to, Michael, this is a woman that in the MCU has been dealt quite a lot of tragedy to deal with, even though she's not considered necessarily one of the main characters of the MCU just yet, like Black Widow would be. She's moving into that position, I think, with WandaVision, and I'm excited for that. But as far as favorite, I think it's the fight with Thanos. When she says, oh, you took one of the greatest things from my life, and what she does to him and how close she comes to absolutely smashing him into little pieces, shows you the breadth of power this woman has. So that to me was one of my favorite moments for sure overall. And the conversations between them in the bedroom when they were in, I can't remember what European city
Edinburgh.
they were. Edinburgh, when they were in Scotland there, but like the connection and conversation they had, very sweet stuff. So those are the things that I look forward to here.
And I think that I think what they did a really good job. You guys are both right. Just jumping into Civil War a little bit, they don't have a ton of screen time together. But when you really look at where they chose to put them together, they built a really great arc over 4 movies. And Marvel's done this really good. They did it really good with Nebula and Guardians of the Galaxy. They take a character that doesn't have necessarily a huge role in a movie, but over the course of multiple movies really builds it out to something really emotional. And in Civil War, most of the Vision and Wanda arc surrounds this connection between them. They have a lovely scene in the kitchen at Avengers Mansion where they talk about both of them sort of being outsiders, both of them sort of being tied to this Mind Stone. Like they hit the Mind Stone beat again. And, they do a really good job because, as Shannon implied, at the Civil War opens up in Lagos, where Scarlet Witch's powers kind of caused this big tragedy. She kills a bunch of Wakandan humanitarians. So she's sort of the reason that these Sokovia Accords get kicked off in the first place. She's on lockdown. Vision's with her trying to make her feel comfortable. They have a really beautiful scene where he's talking about paprika. He's a horrible cook. He tries his best. They do a really nice job in very few scenes with Paul Bettany. I think there's the beginning where he kind of comes through the wall and she's like, I thought we talked about this using the door. Like, for little screen time, they sort of get really cute back and forth between the two of them, where you see that they're both a little bit outsiders. And then what's great about Civil War, then they obviously, because it's a great thing to do with these two characters, they put them on opposite sides. Wanda goes with Cap. Vision is very clear on the fact that, like, this is just going to keep escalating. We need to stop it now. He goes with Tony. The two of them fight in Germany, but then at the end of the fight, after everything kind of goes haywire, the last beat we really get with the two of them, for the most part, is them just apologizing to each other. That even though they were on opposite sides of this, even though they fought, they're together. And then, as Johnny said, then we like jump to Infinity where we see them in Edinburgh, and like you get from what Black Widow says a little bit later, they're still on opposite sides of this. Like Wanda has been off on the run with Cap and Falcon and Black Widow. Vision has been chilling at the Avengers Mansion, like he's still on Team Tony, but the two of them have kind of gone off, done their own thing, seeing each other in secret. He's like, let's not go back, let's stay together. Obviously, Thanos and the gauntlet and everything gets in the way of that. And then we hit the Mind Stone beat again. Like, Thanos wants the stones. Vision is like, he can't get this stone. Y'all need to kill me. And the only one that can kill me is Wanda. And so you see how through all of these movies, they keep taking these two characters that are really emotionally tied together and find ways to put them against each other over and over again, which leads to Infinity War, where Wanda then has to tragically kill Vision to prevent Thanos from getting the stone, which he instantly reverses and then kills Vision again, which is just heartbreaking. And then I'll get to Endgame in a minute. But Shannon, what were you about to say?
Well, no, I was going to say with Civil War, like, you can tell she knows, like, I'm too powerful. Like, when Roth is showing them in Civil War all the destruction that they have done, and obviously none of them are happy about it. Like, Sam Wilson has a great take after watching what happened in DC. It's different with Wanda's. It's different because she was legit. She was the direct. What she did directly resulted in people dying. And then you get to that scene, that awesome scene with Vision, Hawkeye, and Scarlet Witch, where Hawkeye comes and Vision, Paul Bettany has a great, as Hawkeye is trying his best. And he's just like, he gets him in that chokehold and he's just like, Clint, you can't beat me. And he's like, I know, but she can.
It's a great moment.
It's so awesome. And then going into Infinity War, when Thanos dusts everybody, the reactions that everyone has, it's pretty much a pain or shock. Doctor Strange has, he sort of resigns himself to be like, all right, let's see if this plan that I have is going to work. Wanda's is relief. And it's that feeling of the one person that I care about is gone. And also, I don't want to be here anymore.
And I don't have to deal with the grief of their loss. So that
absolutely,
it's a sweet relief to die in that moment. Yeah, good point.
Absolutely.
And then as Johnny was saying before, you get to Endgame. She's not in the movie for the majority of it because she's been dusted. But when she comes back, I mean, we've talked about this before on the show. Like, we've had a year between movies, and the Avengers have had 5 years since the dusting. Like, everyone's still moving on. She shows back up. The last thing, to Shannon's point, the last thing that she remembers is her love dying in her arms. And she is pissed. And Kevin Feige has come out and confirmed the fact that, like, had they not put those cannons from the ship on everybody, like, she's so powerful. It took, Captain Marvel couldn't do it. Like, Tony had to sacrifice his life. Like, Scarlet Witch's power levels are so high, she could have taken Thanos down. Like, she could have done it. And she's pissed and she's upset. And then aside from like a nice little moment with her and Hawkeye at the end, where she's saying, like, I think, they know. Black Widow and Vision know what happened.
It's nice, but it's also melancholic. And I mean, that is not, it's almost not that she is not happy about being brought back, but it's like, okay, I'm brought back to what?
Yeah,
I got nothing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I say this like, understanding our situations, brother Shannon, but like you just don't know what that post life is going to be like, and you navigate it day to day. So yes, they have that moment, but that doesn't mean that moment exists every day. So and that's what I think is so great about WandaVision. It's really going to be an exploration of grief and an exploration of what you do with someone this powerful, how they navigate grief, this powerful, how they navigate trying to climb out of this hole, and then who is taking advantage of her in her grief. We've seen in the trailer, most recent trailers, where Agnes says like, have you come to help us? Who's doing this? This question of like, who is really making all of this happen? Because we've seen in the trailers before that we think that it's Wanda doing it, but there may be a nefarious a villain outside of this that hasn't been revealed yet who's making this happen. I do want to throw some. Oh, sorry, Mike. I have a question, but please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to make a point about her power set, to your point. One of the things that was a little bit wonky, but I feel like is now working to their advantage, is what exactly Wanda's powers are through the Mind Stone.
Good point. Yeah.
Pietro, her brother, he could run fast. Vision is alive, he flies, he shoots a beam out of the Mind Stone. I get it. Wanda, in Age of Ultron, kind of had I'm going to touch you and give you visions with my witchy chaos powers. Yeah. And then that kind of went away after Age of Ultron. And once the Russo brothers got a hold of her, she pretty much became like a super powerful telekinetic. Like she was lifting things, controlling things, like using her abilities. And it worked for them. Like it worked for them. Like that was a great visual representation. I understand what she did. When Kevin Feige came out at the last Comic-Con we had, which was over a year ago now, and said now she's really going to earn the name Scarlet Witch. We know that she's going to be in Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange. And by just the concept of what WandaVision is itself, it seems like they're expanding her power levels to encompass much more of the magical, mystical. Like she's not, clearly she's in a fucking Bewitched TV episode. It's not just telekinesis anymore. So I do think that the way that they expand her power levels in WandaVision from where she started in Age of Ultron and where she went throughout the movies, I think that's going to be a big key part and a big watching the way they explain that in WandaVision is going to be a big key towards exploring some of the more magical avenues that the MCU is going to start diving into. We know that they're going into vampires with Blade. We know, like, there's a lot that's happening that's getting more to the magical, mystical side, and I think she is sort of key to a lot of that.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys what you think we'll see. Look, they've bought X-Men. They've bought Fantastic Four. They've said this is going to relate to the multiverse. The multiverse is the key word there of madness. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, all of that. But of course, we just talked a little bit before we started this, the main topic here about Black Panther, Victor Von Doom, which of course is connected to Fantastic Four. Is there a possibility that we see little Easter eggs throughout this WandaVision that connect? Do we see Magneto's helmet? Remember, people might not know this. Magneto is the father of Wanda and Pietro. Does Pietro come back? Does Aaron Taylor Johnson have a cameo as Quicksilver in this? What do we have overall that we're going to see? I just think now that they've purchased it, will there be an X thing as a kind of a shout out? Will there be a Wolverine clause? Will there be something that gets alluded to throughout that? Or Fantastic, is the number 4 going to be there? You know, like all those things could be presented here. That's the kind of show they seem to have set up, that it can go multiple different directions because she is so powerful. She can create multiple alternate realities at the same time. Do you guys anticipate that we'll see things like that in the series?
No.
Okay.
I think that I think the idea that maybe we see Pietro, like getting him to come back and be her, like, I think that since she's dealing with loss and that is a huge part of her past, that I think is actually really interesting. Okay. I would be super excited if that happened. And I could see that when it gets into Magneto's helmet, Wolverine claws, X, anything like that. I'm really curious how they're going to handle this. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, I think most of our listeners would know this, but if you happen to not, in the comics, as John said, Wanda and Pietro are mutants. That's where the powers come from. They're Magneto's kids. But when Fox owned mutants and Marvel kept Avengers, and Wanda and Pietro also have been Avengers in the comics. Somehow nobody made a call on that, so both sides got them. so that's where you can have Pietro show up in X-Men First Class. Is he in First Class? Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
You can have Pietro show up in Days of Future Past and imply that he is Magneto's son, and you have Pietro show up in Age of Ultron and he's not. And so I think that just given where the MCU has brought these characters from, they're from Sokovia, they got their powers through the Mind Stone, they're not mutants. That being so I think that we're not going to get into any past mutant stuff. Like, I don't think that there's going to be a Magneto helmet. All that being said, we have no idea where mutants are coming from.
True.
Maybe they're coming through some portal and there's a whole other universe where mutants exist and they're coming to our world, in which case I think Wanda would never be a mutant. Or the Eternals are going to do something to spark human evolution. Or Wanda's magic itself is going to cause mutants to... are they going to reverse House of Emmett? Like, in House of M, the comic that is one of Wanda's main comic book things, which everybody should check out, she creates an entire reality where mutants are ruling the world. Is her reality warping powers in WandaVision somehow going to cause mutants to come into existence? Maybe that's what it'll be. So I don't think we're going to get Easter eggs in the way that you're saying, like any reference to anything that already exists. But I do think the way that they treat Wanda could give us a hint towards where mutants will be coming from, potentially.
I promise not to text you all in capital letters. Called it when we see Magneto's helmet in the first couple.
By the way, much like your Mandalorian semi-spoiler, I say that I really do think that is. I don't think they'll go down that road. This is one of those areas where if I'm wrong, I'm more than happy to be wrong.
Yeah,
if I see any of the things that you just named, I'll get really excited, I'll geek out, and then I'll go, wait, this doesn't make sense, and I'll wait to see how they explain it. But I would be happy to be wrong. I don't think I am, though.
So I do think Aaron Taylor Johnson, I really hope he's going to show up. I really hope he will be able to pop in for an episode. As far as the helmet, I don't know if it'll specifically be the helmet. I do think there is a possibility of some sort of Easter egg related to Magneto. Like the Wolverine claws, anything else with X-Men. Not really, but thinking about the characters that she is connected to. Yeah. Now, like the Mind Stone, they can retcon that and say that the Mind Stone activated the Mutant X gene in these two people. And that's the people who survive these experiments with the Mind Stone. It's like, oh, if you have the Mutant X gene, that's what you're able to do. As far as her in Age of Ultron not controlling people's mind, but giving them the visions, I don't necessarily think that went away. I think that probably she stopped doing that as a result of her work with the Avengers. Them saying, listen, if you have to fight someone, you have to fight someone. Getting in someone's head, that is wrong.
Right.
That's fair.
And I think Mike could be right that whatever she does in terms, like now that she doesn't necessarily have a good influence around her, she's taking some time to herself. She is exploring how powerful she is. She could be the one that activates the Mutant X gene, but I think it's probably, in reality, I think it's probably a little early for that to happen. I don't think that'll happen, but I think it could be, story-wise, I think it would make sense.
Okay. All right. Mike?
Oh, it doesn't say. I think, like, look, if you are someone who's only ever watched the Marvel movies, we've just kind of gone through the list of, like, this is the story of them. When you get to the comics, I think the only thing that like, Wanda and Vision's origins, a little different, as we've been talking about with the mutant thing with Wanda. Vision was built by Ultron. Like, there's slight differences, but more or less the characters are the characters that you know. The big thing that happened in the comics that I think is definitely going to be a big part of this is Wanda and Vision did fall in love, like they did in the MCU. They can't have kids because Vision be a robot. So Wanda used her. It doesn't work that way. But Wanda used her chaos magic, her reality warping powers, and basically, and also I think this could become an important piece of WandaVision. Used slivers of Mephisto, who is a Marvel villain who is sort of a devil who lives in his own pocket hell dimension, but isn't really the devil. He's a demon. He's magic bad guy. Used slivers of his soul and her reality warping powers to give her and Vision two children named Billy and Tommy. Yeah. And when everybody fixed reality and they went away and Mephisto reabsorbed them and she didn't have kids, she went totally crazy, which is the thing that kicks off this whole House of M arc that she's very famous for. By looking at the trailers for WandaVision, and then I should say, and we've talked about this, if you are Geek Buddies listeners, you've heard us talk about this because we geek out about it. Later on, 2 children were born in real life, Billy Kaplan and Tommy Shepard, who were the reincarnated versions of her kids. So they're kind of Wanda's kids, they're kind of not, but they're 2 of the key members of the Young Avengers. And so we have seen enough hints in the WandaVision trailers to know that they are having kids in this warped reality that she's potentially creating. It looks like it is Billy and Tommy, and as we've talked about, it does seem like the Marvel Universe is going in that Young Avengers direction. So that's definitely a piece that we haven't explored in the MCU yet that's pretty key to their story in the comic books that I think we're really going to dive into as well.
What do you guys think about the Monica Rambeau situation? We see her now coming back. Of course, she's Spectrum. She's Captain Marvel or Ms. Marvel for a little bit of time as well in the history of the comic books. Do we think, what is her connection going to be in all of this? What is her part of this? We see in the most recent trailer where, Wanda asks her, like, or Scarlet Witch asks her, what are you doing? Who are you? And she says, I don't know. And then they cut quickly to the laughing and smiling thing. So like, how is she getting sent into this thing to try to go? And this could be that we don't have a villain, that we actually have someone who's trying to get Wanda out of this place that she's in and is being seen as a villain through her prism because of what she's experiencing in her grief. So that's a possibility too. So what's her role? Do you think what do you think her role is going to be in this situation, Mike?
Kevin Feige, in the whole press junket that went on in the past week, he said there's a specific reason why they're introducing Monica Rambeau now. I don't know what that reason is. As Johnny said, when we last saw her, she was a little girl in the Captain Marvel movie, which took place in the 90s. Her mom, Maria Rambeau, was one of Carol's best friends. So that's the last time we saw her. She's now all grown up. We presume she's working with Sword, which is which will hopefully be introduced here, which is the new version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
And so we're not quite sure, but I'm really curious to see how they use her and what they reveal about her story from the last time we saw her, which was as a little girl. And we do know that this actress, Teyonah Parris, is going to be playing Monica Rambeau in Captain Marvel 2 as well. So whatever's going on here is going to tie into her role in Captain Marvel 2, where she, is going to be maybe best friends with her mom's best friend. We'll see what happens. But so I don't know exactly what her deal is and why she's the one that seems like she's going into this TV universe, but doesn't quite know. Like it's really interesting. But like I said, Kevin Feige was like, there's a reason why they decided to use this specific character and not just somebody else.
Good point. Good point. Any final thoughts, Shannon? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I would assume that, I don't know if she's necessarily working for Sword, because I don't know if Jimmy Woo is working for Sword. But whatever organization Jimmy Woo is working for, I'm assuming that's what Monica Rambeau is doing as well.
And Kat Dennings. Right, her character
and Kat Dennings, absolutely.
Yeah, in addition, I guess
we've not seen in any of the promotional materials, right?
Yep. We have.
I guess we should say, in addition to, if you were really going to be a completionist, in addition to watching, to Shannon's point, the end credits of Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, Monica Rambeau is in Captain Marvel, a young Monica Rambeau. Darcy Lewis, which is who Kat Dennings plays, is in the first 2 Thor movies. Yep. And Randall Park plays Agent Jimmy Woo in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So, in typical MCU fashion, all of these characters from different parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe are coming together in this show that's kicking off Phase 4.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have experience with Jimmy Woo and Kat Dennings. Sorry, Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis. We have experience with those two. We don't have experience with the Monica Rambeau as an adult.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting because those two are quirky people in their respective sections of the MCU. Is Monica Rambeau the more serious one to balance out the quirkiness? Because it's an interesting trio to bring together to try to find a way to get Wanda out of this situation or whatever she's experiencing. But it does also lead to some very funny moments, which is why the sitcom vibe is there and why you put these characters together who are experienced in doing sitcoms, of course, with Randall Park on Fresh Off the Boat and 2 Broke Girls for Kat Dennings and other shows as well. So yeah, good stuff. And before we wrap up, we should announce we are going to be doing WandaVision reviews here for the Geek Buddies. We got confirmed who our fourth person is going to be, and I'm going to announce it now. The incredibly talented, very funny, and knowledgeable Emma Fife will be our fourth person on the review here. We bring her onto the show. It's going to be so much fun to have Emma Fife be a part of the Geek Buddies and or help us with these reviews and give her points of views on things. You always appreciate Emma Fife. She is, of course, the host over at Watch Ven. She is on Twitch like crazy. You guys know her through the Schmodown and all the multiple shows that she's done. Certainly a frequent guest on Collider Heroes when we had that show. So I'm excited to have her be a part of this thing. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on Emma Fife coming on to our situation here?
Fantastic.
I'm excited. I'm excited. No, I love, the more the merrier, having some different voices. And despite all of the strengths that the three of us have, we are not ladies, which is a big weakness on our part. So always great to get some more female voices on here as well. So I can't wait. I'm just really stoked. I had so much fun doing our Mandalorian reviews weekly on the show. And I think that it just gives us a chance to dive deeper into these stories and really get into the details of stuff. And based on the response to the Mandalorian reviews, they went really well. So hopefully you guys enjoy hearing us geek out in way more detail on WandaVision week to week as we get started this week.
And those of you know, Emma is a sweaty, so it's going to be a lot of fun to have her bring her points of views. And look, all three of us may have some feminine characteristics, but we are not women. And it's great to have Emma coming in and giving us that point of view as well. So we're looking forward to it for sure. We can't thank Emma enough for being willing to come on and do the reviews with us. So we will drop that on Saturday. Look for those on Saturday. That time schedule-wise, that's the time we can record them. So as soon as we record them, I will drop them on the channel for people to watch and enjoy. All right, that's it from us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
Look, we are clearly super excited to talk with you guys about all the fun stuff that we've got coming up. And the thing that you can do to help us, if you enjoy listening to all the things we do, is help get the word out on Geek Buddies. So here are some things that you can do that are super simple and easy. You can click that like button below. You can subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw page, where there is tons of good content, not just with us, but with other people too. And then if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or Anchor, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts, give us a rating, leave a comment. It helps us go up in the rating so other people can find us. And the most important thing that you guys can do is share this video, post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, text it to your friends. Be like, hey, I didn't know this about WandaVision. Listen to what these three crazy guys said. And of course, as we say every week, leave some comments below. Let us know what you thought. Leave some F-bombs for Shannon. He really clearly loves them.
He loves them.
We respond to everything. We love to get back to you guys. We love to engage. And so let's just keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with both these two gentlemen more. Thank you all so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Geek Buddies. And don't forget, Saturday, dropping our WandaVision reviews, and then we'll be back next week with another episode of the
Fucking Geek
Buddies!
Hey!